So we start with the second canto of the book, The Growth of the Flame. We have already been, so to say, introduced to Savitri, that she was born in the spring when nature was at beauty's festival. She has already become a scout, a grown-up girl. She has become a warrior guarding the throne of light, the diamond throne of light, a warrior guarding the diamond throne of light. So already we are told what Savitri is going to do in her life here. Now, there is something interesting also. See, so far we have not been told who is this she, who is this girl, what is her name. Name is not given anywhere at all so far. See, the earliest occurrence is 94.4. One had returned from the transcendent planes. That is the reference to the flame which is coming down here. One had returned from the transcendent planes. She is coming from the Supreme Source. Return. She has been coming again and again. Now this one is not named because she is still in that world. When she comes here, when she grows, then she will have a name. She is at the moment nameless. One had come, and then he says, she took again. That one, that she stands for one. Without naming Savitri, that she stands for one. And then for the first time, the name Savitri appears is in 97.11. Thus was it for a while with Savitri. It is for the first time. It is for the first time that name Savitri is mentioned here. Thus was it for a while with Savitri. All the description which is there. So the name Savitri appears here for the first time. Now, of course, prior to this occurrence, we had the mention of Savitri's name in the very first book itself. In the very first canto itself, and Savitri to a book. And in the second canto, Savitri. But that is a different context altogether. But here, she has come here, she has taken birth here. The poet has not yet given her name. Now here, for the first time, it appears at this place. Thus was it for a while with Savitri. Now, why he is delaying the giving of the name? It also happens in the case of Ashwapati. Ashwapati's name appears for the first time after traveler of the book, this, etc., etc. For the first time, it appears in book 3, canto 4. For the first time, it appears there. Let us see that. But Ashwapati's heart applied to her.
This is the first time for all this?
No, 90.2.
Yeah, I know. But then in all those pages.
Wait a minute, which copy is this? We have taken which copy?
But Ashwapati's heart.
That's right, yeah. That's correct, yeah, that's right.
I'm so surprised that he's not in here.
Until now, name Ashwapati does not appear. This is the first time Ashwapati's name is mentioned.
So how is the name mentioned? Yaski?
Until now, they call.
So he becomes Ashwapati at this point. Ashwapati, Ashwa means horse. Pati means the lord of the horses. Who is the commander, who is the master of life forces. It is at this point in his spiritual realization he becomes Ashwapati, and therefore it is at this point he is named Ashwapati. Until now, until then, he is becoming Ashwapati, climbing up level above level. And when he becomes the full master, the Lord of life, when he becomes that, then his name appears.
So it takes something to be able to control life.
So this is the beauty of Savitri. You see how he connects all this. Why he delayed so much, but it is to be understood also then in the context back. You see, same thing happens here of Savitri. For the first time, it appears when she has become, so to say, human Savitri fully. She has acquired the name, the form, you see. Until then, she is a goddess. She is one. So, see, we were told earlier that in Savitri's body, many gods lived. The body that held this greatness seemed almost an image of the heavens of transparent light. Savitri, as a young girl, her body is the image of heaven's light, already you see. And then he is coming, how that image, how that flame grows. This is what I got in the second canto, the growth of the flame. A land of mountains and wide sun-baked plains, and giant rivers pacing to vast seas, a field of creation and spiritual hush, silence swallowing life's acts into the deeps of thoughts transcendent, climb and heavenward leap, a brooding world of reverie and trance, filled with the mightiest worlds of God and man, where nature seemed a dream of the divine, and beauty and grace and grandeur had their home, harbored the childhood of the incarnate flame. He is describing the place where Savitri grew up as a flame. Flame, capital, incarnate, the divine himself has come and taken birth. The immortal has taken the birth in mortality. The immortal has taken the birth in mortality. That is what the incarnate flame means here. Her psychic being is awake right from her birth. She has definitely put on the veil of mortal life, of ignorance, of human conditions. But her psyche is always alert, is always a flame, burning bright. Now, this is a land of mountains, wide sun-baked plains. So you have got mountains, you have got vast expanses of space, plains up there, giant rivers facing to the seas, creation and spiritual hush. This is what is there all around here, spiritual hush in this land. Silence, the whole thing is filled up with deep silence, spiritual silence, swallowing life's acts into the deeps. Life's turmoil, harshnesses, everything is absorbed by that silence. Of thoughts transcendent climb and heavenward leap, a brooding world. So the whole brooding world is nothing but the climb of the transcendent thoughts. The thoughts transcendent climb. See, the construction is the transcendent climb of thoughts. The thoughts are climbing up towards the transcendent. Transcendent climb of thoughts. Heavenward leap of thoughts. That is the construction. Filled with the mightiest words of God and man. The whole place is filled up with the work of God and man. It is already beyond the mental domain, man, beyond, because it is also filled up with the words of God. Or, in other words, God and man are together here doing some work. Where nature seemed a dream of the divine, the whole world, trees, mountains, flowers, birds, animals, everything is what? Is a dream of the divine. And beauty and grace and grandeur, the whole place is their home. Beautiful place, graceful place, and of course grandeur. Harbor the childhood of the incarnate flame. Now the question is, he has given a kind of a geographical picture where Savitri grew up as the incarnate flame, but the precise geographical location you cannot find on the Google map. It is not there on the Google map, you see. It is not there at all. Basically, we can surmise something of this kind. From the nature of the description, it is obvious that this must have been ages and ages ago when the civilization was of a different kind. He is not describing anywhere factories and industries and commercial buildings and banks and transactions and all that kind of a thing. It's not there at all. It is in the company of the primeval nature, the true original nature. It is in that nature's bosom that the childhood is growing up, you see. It is not in the hectic activities of man of the modern time. Basically, Shivan Moya said that the story of Savitri belongs to the Vedic cycles, to the Vedic cycles. So you can say that this is the description of the part of the country which was there during the Vedic period. Now, if you go back to the Vedic description, it would mean that you should have been somewhere in northern India. Mountains, Himalayas, rivers, you have got Sindhu, Punjab, 5 rivers, Ganges, Yamuna, on the eastern side, Brahmaputra, Padma, rushing to the seas, great seas, you see. So it is that whole northern belt of India, all the way down to the Vindhyas in the middle. It is that whole belt of India which you can kind of surmise is being presented in this description here. He says, and giant rivers, Sindhu, Ganges, rushing like that, the 5 rivers of Punjab, you see. Giant rivers spacing into vast seas, a field of creation and spiritual hush. Spiritual hush, that is important because it is there in that region, in that what we call Aryavarta, the land of the Aryas of the ancient days. It is there that the spiritual sages, rishis, they did tapasya, they did spiritual practices and attained to high levels of spirituality. Therefore, it is a land of spiritual hush, field of purifier, a field of creation and spiritual hush, silent swallowing life's acts into deep. Therefore, naturally, all the activities of life, the harshnesses, etc., they get absorbed in that silence system. Of thoughts, transcendent climb, the transcendent climb of thoughts, the heavenward leap of thought means you are climbing up the mountains So the thoughts are going beyond the mental regions. Is what it means into the transcendent. A brooding world of reverie and trance. So naturally, the whole thing looks as if it is a dream, a reverie, a trance. You are absorbed in some kind of a meditation, filled with the mightiest words of God and man. This is what happened in those days. These people, the rishis, the sages, the practitioners of spirituality, they were directly in contact with the gods. And there was a direct transaction between them, between man and God. And it is that which was being worked out in the land here. Where nature, what is that worked out? God and man molding nature, giving a new shape to nature. That is the work they are doing. Seemed a dream of the divine, therefore nature itself, that whole place itself looks like a dream, swapna of the divine. And beauty and grace and grandeur, their home. So naturally everything is beautiful, very graceful, grand, everything is there. And it is that place which harbored the childhood of the incarnate flame. Now, we might pin down this description to a specific place. Later on, we will see that Savitri is a princess, her father is a king, Ashwapati, and he is the king of the place called Madra, Madra land. The name of the prince of the land is Madra. So it is that Madra description is what you see here. Madra, where could be the Madra? Again, we don't know. No Google will help us also. The description of Madra, again we can surmise to some extent by indirect references. He speaks of Alakananda at one place in Savitri. Alakananda is a river. Alakananda is a river in the lower ranges of the Himalayas. And soon that river Alaknanda joins the Ganges. She becomes a tributary of Ganges at a place called Devaprayag. The confluence of Ganges and Alaknanda occurs at Devaprayag. So it could be therefore the description of that place, although he has not pinpointed name. But we can surmise on the basis of certain hints which are given here. So we could surmise that this whole geographical description would belong to that region of Madra. It is a mountainous region. The rivers are passing fast. Alaknanda, Ganges, they're rushing past here seen. And beauty and grace and grandeur are naturally their home and harbor the childhood of the incarnate flame. Now, this line and beauty and grace and grandeur had their home. In one of the earlier drafts of Savitri, Shivandu had this line slightly different. He says, and beauty and grace and grandeur flowered upon its dream. Instead of had their home, flowered from its dream. From the dream of this place, beauty and grandeur had flowered. It's a very, very beautiful description, you see. You followed the difference between the two. This is a home, all right, but in the other version, all these things, beauty and grace and grandeur, they had flowered from the dream of this whole place. They are the products of this place. Whereas in this line here, we have beauty and grandeur living naturally in those surroundings. I would say this is a very beautiful description, had flowered in this flame. See. Over her watched millennial influences and the deep godheads of a grandiose past looked on her and saw the future's goddess come. Oh, as if this magnet drew the powers unseen. Now, this is a very compact sentence, very difficult sentence also. A lot of things are said in these 4 lines. See again, first thing we have to mark here, over her was millennial influence. He is not naming who is that person, her. But that her here would refer to the incarnate flame. The reference of that her is to the incarnate flame. In other words, of course, to Savitri, this is what we say. But grammatically, this her stands for the flame. In this sentence here. And the deep godheads have a grandiose past. Grandiose, impressive, majestic, at the same time pompous, bombastic past. And the goddess to come, goddess of the future. Who are the goddess of the past? Who are the goddess of the future? That he is not specifying at this point here. But the reference is very clear. She is coming here when the mightiest work of God and man is being done. Mightiest work of God and man is being done. This is what we have got here. God and man being done. Actually, the goddess of the past would indicate man's development coming up to a certain point. His mental capacities, his inventive capacities, his creative capacities, they have come up to a certain point. Not only mental capacities, but even his spiritual capacities. He has climbed up from level to level in his spiritual realizations. He has got the higher mind, he has got the illumined mind, he has got intuition, he has got overmind, he has even at times shot into the transcendent. So these are the godheads of the past. In other words, man is capable of rising all the way to the transcendent. This is what God and man have done to change nature. But that is not sufficient. Climbing up all the way up to the transcendent, that is the Godhead of the past. And the deep Godheads of a grandiose past. This is a grandiose thing. This is a very pompous, very glorious, very beautiful, very impressive attainment of man, of the past, of time, which has gone so far. But it is looked on her again, on Savitri here, that flame, looked on her and saw the moment this Godhead sees Savitri, what do we say in her? This is the past. We have to see for the future now. It is Savitri who is going to bring the Godheads of the future. Her work is already indicated here. What is Savitri going to do? She is going to bring the future's Godhead here. And the deep Godheads of a grandiose past looked on her and saw the future's Godhead. The moment they look at Savitri, yes, the future Godheads will come here. In other words, all those transcendent glories of spaceless, timeless things, beauty, love, joy, happiness, whatever you want to call them, those Godheads will come down here in this creation. That is what Savitri is going to do. Looked on her and saw the future's Godheads come as if this magnet to the powers unseen. She is a magnet who is bringing the future into this creation here. So this is a very important sentence also. It immediately tells what this incarnate flame is going to do. She is going to bring the goddess of the future into this creation. Earth's brooding wisdom Now he's sort of elaborating on this sentence. Earth's brooding wisdom spoke to her still breast. Earth's brooding wisdom spoke to her. Her stands for whom? To Savitri or to Earth? That becomes a little puzzling thing. But here in this context, it is the wisdom which is speaking to Earth. It is the wisdom which is speaking to Earth. What? Mounting from mind's last peaks to mate with God's. It is that wisdom which is telling her, look, above the ranges of mind, up, there are places where you have to go and meet the gods. Mounting from mind's last peaks to mate with gods, making us brilliant thoughts a springboard. So whatever thoughts of man are, they became a springboard, jumping board to go up, making us brilliant thoughts a springboard to dive into the cosmic vastnesses. So this is the Godhead of the future, to dive into the cosmic vastnesses. He is giving an example of what is going to happen. The knowledge of the thinker and the seer. It is the thinker who is also the seer. The seen and the unseen and the object, they are one for him. The seer sees an object which he himself is. There is no difference between the seer, the seen, and the act of seeing. They become one entity. That is the knowledge of the future. And it is that kind of a Godhead which will enter into picture here. To dive into the cosmic vastnesses, the knowledge of the thinker and the seer saw the unseen and thought the unthinkable, opened the enormous doors of the unknown. When that knowledge opens out, the doors of the unknown become wide open. Rent man's horizons into infinity. So that is the Godhead of the future. A shoreless sweep was lent to the mortal's acts. The moment she is there, then every act of man, of mortal, becomes vast, shoreless. It has no boundaries at all. It expands. And art and beauty sprang from the human depths. Nature and soul wide in nobility. Who is more powerful? Who is more glorious? It is as a competition between earth and between soul and nature. The competition is between nature and soul. For what? Who is greater? Who is more noble? It is that kind. In other words, nature wants to go beyond the soul. The soul wants to express itself even in nature, and that kind of a competition is constantly going on there. In other words, again, this separation which is there at the moment between nature and soul will not be there anymore in the presence of Savitri. And what will happen in that place? It will be art and beauty. It is that which will be expressed everywhere. Now actually from here we have already a description of what Savitri as a child is going to acquire in a childhood. The canto name is The Growth of the Flame. How Savitri is going to grow. She is going to acquire the skills of art. She is going to learn the aesthetics of the works, art and beauty. And it is in that art and beauty, nature will be expressed in such a way that the soul of the object, it is that which will be depicted. It is not the physical feature. If an artist is drawing the picture of a certain object, it is the soul of the object which will be presented by the artist in his depiction.